All right, guys, I've got a secret to share with you this week. There is one secret ingredient that I use that makes the most incredible cookies in the world. Check it out. Hey friends, welcome back to This Homemade Life. If you're new, my name is Courtney and today we are talking cookies. Now I've said it before, I am no baker, but I do love a good cookie and I have spent a lot of time seeking out a delicious and perfect cookie recipe. And do you know what I found? There is a secret ingredient that you can use to make a million different cookies. I mean, the possibilities are almost endless, but they will always turn out perfect, delicious, and amazing. What is that secret ingredient, you ask? Pudding, just instant pudding. That's all it is. So if you think about it, instant pudding comes in a million different flavors. You can buy name brand, you can buy generic, you can buy holiday related flavors, all kinds of stuff. You can also buy a million different kinds of chocolate chips and nuts. Maybe it's mint chocolate chips, butterscotch chips, peanut butter chips. I've even seen strawberry flavored chips, white chocolate, dark chocolate, semi-sweet. There are so many different combinations that it is just impossible to make all of them. But this week we're gonna make a couple of them and I'm so excited to share them with you. Let's get rolling. All right, friends, so for our first cookie recipe, we're just gonna make not chocolate chip cookies, but M&M chip cookies. What do you think? My son Camden absolutely loves these. I don't let him have them all the time because they do have red dye in the M&Ms and he does have like a lot of food sensitivities. But today we're gonna give him a treat because he has been a rock star, getting his braces put on and all kinds of other stuff. So let's make these cookies. He's gonna be so excited. This recipe could not be easier. It is so simple and the cookies always turn out absolutely perfectly. So the first thing we're gonna do is cream together our butter and sugar. So this recipe does take a lot of butter and that is how you know these cookies are going to be amazing. It calls for 1.5 sticks or 3/4 of a cup of butter. Yum. There we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started whipping and then we're gonna add in our butter while it's going. It calls for both brown, or I'm sorry, not our butter, our sugar. It calls for both brown sugar and white sugar, so we're gonna need 3/4 of a cup of white sugar and 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I have an 1/8 cup measure, so it'll look like I'm putting in a lot more than I really am. So I like to really whip my butter and sugar together, let it get really nice and fluffy before I move on to any more steps. So that's done. We're gonna scrape down the sides of our bowl. Of course, you could always do this by hand as well. You don't have to use a mixer. I just find it to be so much easier this way. All right, to this, we're gonna add in 1 egg. And then we're going to add in some vanilla. All right, we need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I've got a 1/2 teaspoon measure, so I needed 2. We're gonna add in, the recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt, but I have found that that is a bit much because we're also adding in our secret ingredient, which is pudding mix, and this is kind of salty on its own, especially when it comes to sweet things. So I like to cut the salt down to just 1/2 teaspoon. I think that's perfect. We'll go ahead and add our pudding mix in. For this recipe, I am using just regular French vanilla. You can experiment with all kinds of flavors. As you're gonna see in this video, we're doing a number of different combinations. to get some really fun cookie ideas. So you can kind of get crazy with it and do whatever you think might be really, really tasty. I'm just adding in what I think is going to kind of create the kind of cookie that my son's looking for. All right, our last ingredient before the M&Ms is 1 2/3 cups of flour. I'm going to go ahead and lift this up for the flour. Put this back down and get everything incorporated. All right, now that that's well incorporated, we're going to add in our M&Ms. I ordered a big bag, but they sold out. So I'm just going to be putting in a couple of these little snack boxes. And we mix. Perfect. All right, I like to use a cookie scoop just to kind of keep my cookies nice and uniform. I find that they bake better that way, more evenly. I'm just putting them on a parchment-lined cookie sheet. I really do like using parchment paper. I find there's a lot of butter in these cookies, and greasing the pan to make sure they don't stick just really creates a lot more grease, and I don't want that. These are perfect the way they are, so parchment paper really is the way to go. I'm just going to continue to put these little dollops of cookie dough out on my pan. I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees, and these will bake for 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, so those cookies were absolutely delicious. That was the first time I had made them with the chocolate chips in them, and oh my gosh, they were so good. I do want to take a minute to say that, in all fairness and honesty, up until I did the pantry challenge, y'all, I only made cookies from cookie mix just because, as I've said before, I am not a baker. When it comes to baking things, I am a little bit lazy about it because I'm not a baker. But during the pantry challenge, I had a sweet tooth. I mean, like, I had a bad sweet tooth, and I wanted some cookies. Oh, I wanted some cookies. And so I Googled a recipe. Didn't happen to be this one, it was a different one. And I made some cookies, and they were great. And I thought to myself, why am I wasting so much money buying these cookie mixes? I have all the ingredients on hand, like 99% of the time. So I kind of started investing more time in looking at recipes, and I found this one. And it just, wow, it blew me away because there were so many ways to make it different. So we didn't have to have the same chocolate chip cookies every single time. So for this particular cookie, we're going to make an espresso cookie, which I think is super exciting because I didn't even know these espresso chips existed. Have y'all seen them before? They were totally new to me when I found them, so I'm super excited to get to use them. Recipe stays the same for every single batch of cookies. The only thing you're going to change is whatever chips you put in there, your pudding, and possibly your extract. I only changed extract one time when I made these. However, you could throw in so many different combinations. You could do peppermint extract, lemon extract, orange extract. There are so many things you could put into different kinds of cookies. I do want to mention for these cookies, I am using the cheesecake pudding, which I thought was really good, and it paired as well as I thought it would with the espresso chips. However, I think I could see it even better with like some kind of strawberry chips. I think that would really be great, or even some dried pieces of fruit, something like that inside the cookies. I just kind of stuck with chips for this video just because I think those are kind of universal. Everybody is familiar with them, everybody uses them, and a lot of people already have them in their pantry. So you may be watching this video going, oh wow, I have everything for this right now in my pantry. I'm gonna make some cookies. That was kind of how I felt because the first time I saw it, I actually had all the ingredients in my pantry. Maybe I'm weird. Do y'all keep pudding mix on hand? I do keep pudding mix on hand, not to make pudding, like other things. Sometimes I'll make pudding pops. I won't lie. I've made pudding pops before. Typically it's like some kind of, what did I make at Christmas? I make strawberry bonbons and they have pudding in them and jello and stuff. So it's usually for something else. But anyway, I keep it on hand. Another point I do want to make when you're making these cookies, if you're like me and you are using a stand mixer, make sure you scrape down the sides pretty often. As you can see with mine, the cookie dough and the butter and everything builds up on the sides, and if you don't scrape it down regularly, you'll find that you have like clumps of butter and flour that are not getting incorporated properly into the cookie dough. So make sure you're scraping your sides. All right, same deal as before, parchment lined cookie sheet, and I'm just using my scoop to scoop out these cookies. I actually thought the color on these was really, really pretty because the cookie dough has that beautiful tan color, and those chips, even though they're just like black chocolate chips, they really kind of pop, and I really like the way these looked. I have to say, this cookie mix, it always comes out looking nice. And with the cookie scoop, they always come out in pretty good circles most of the time. They hold their shape well. I haven't tried that glass trick where you like swirl it around on a warm cookie to get the perfect circle, but I thought these were close enough that I'm not going to worry about doing that. I thought that they looked nice and they smelled amazing and they tasted fantastic. Now, little tip about those espresso chips have a lot of caffeine in them. So don't be like me. Don't let your, 8-year-old child have 2 cookies at 8:30 at night, because that is a mistake. Learn from my mistakes and don't do that to yourself. They have caffeine. Limit that for earlier in the day if you've got small children or if you're sensitive to caffeine. All right, let's move on to these cookies. I think these might have been my husband's favorite. I don't know. My oldest definitely loved these too. Mint and chocolate. I think they are like peanut butter and chocolate, just a match made in heaven. You can't go wrong. So I decided that I would use some chocolate pudding for the base. We'll have chocolate cookies, and we'll put those mint pieces in there. Man, the flavor of those is so good. It popped so much against that chocolate cookie. It was awesome. It reminded me so much of eating like Andy's mints. The flavor was great. Now, one thing I do want to say, for whatever reason, the chocolate pudding gives the cookie dough a bit of a more crumbly consistency. I don't know why. It's the same amount in the box and everything, but for some reason it does make the dough a little bit more crumbly. The cookies are still chewy at the end. They are not hard at all, but it is a little bit different. And if you haven't noticed by now, I added salt, the half teaspoon of salt in that first batch of cookies. By the end of this video, you'll probably notice that I stopped adding salt just because I felt like they were salty enough and I just didn't need to add that in there. The pudding already has some salt in it, so I just didn't need to add any more. So there's that chocolate pudding. I'm just dumping it right on in there and mixing it as usual, making sure I'm scraping down my sides. Like mint chocolate is something I like. It's not my favorite, but like I said, was really impressed by these cookies. Now, another flavor combination to consider, and I did make it for Easter, was chocolate cookies with peanut butter chips. So good. For Easter, I made those, and I made the next cookie recipe you'll see. And I took them to Easter at my in-laws' house, and I think they were a hit. People seem to enjoy them. For me, as long as it's a nice soft cookie and it's not bland, then I really like it. And these are soft and they are not bland. They have so much great flavor. And I love that I don't get bored with these because I can just kind of shake them up and change them into whatever I want. I could even alter this recipe by adding peppermint extract next time instead of just vanilla extract, and that would probably add a really beautiful flavor. Just an FYI, if you're going to do something like that, make sure your extract says peppermint. If you use mint extract, that is spearmint, and that's not going to taste the way you want it to taste. So make sure that it does say peppermint extract. All right, there's those mint chips, and this is just the same as before. You can see that dough is a little bit more crumbly. It baked up fine. It wasn't a big deal. For whatever reason, it's just a little bit different, but don't let that bother you. It worked out fine at the end of the day. Now you can freeze these cookies. You can just put them out on a cookie sheet and pop them in your freezer. Let them freeze for 1 to 2 hours and then put them in zip top bags. Store them in your freezer for a couple of months. That way you can make them whenever you want to make them. They're just kind of ready to go for you. I don't think I would freeze the cookies fully made, but it does make 36 cookies, so they're perfect to take to like potlucks and events and things like that, so keep that in mind. You could always like make a batch and freeze half of it and make half of it. I've seen a lot of people do things like that. We're a family of 5, so I'll make the whole batch. They go in my house, so they go quickly. Anyway, you're going to pop those in the oven and bake them, and they come out looking and smelling absolutely beautiful. I love the green. It pops so great against the chocolate cookie. All right, so this recipe is like what I'm going to call the piece de resistance. This is a pistachio cookie with white chocolate chips. Now, pistachio and almond, those flavors are something that my husband and I both really, really, really love. So this was bound to be a winner in my household, no question about it. Everything starts off the same. and it stays the same through most of the recipe. We'll use pistachio pudding. Now, one thing I do differently is I add in both vanilla and almond extract, because almond really mimics that pistachio flavor. It's very similar. It really makes it pop. It tastes really, really good. It gives it a deeper flavor. Another thing I do with these, and you can do this with any of your cookies, these are just the only ones I did it with in this video, is I'm going to add some food coloring. So the pistachio pudding mix, you'll see it in a minute, it's green. So it dyes the cookies a light green color, and it's really, really pale. And I was looking at it thinking to myself, like, if I'm going to have green cookies, I want some green cookies. It's spring after all. So I did add in a little bit of food coloring. You could do that with the cheesecake cookies. They would take food coloring. The ones I made in the beginning with the M&Ms, those would take food coloring. I don't think the chocolate ones would take it very well, just because they're already so dark. But if you were to use like maybe a strawberry or a cherry pudding base, then you could definitely add some pink in there and just really have a beautiful, beautiful color. Oh, now that I'm thinking about it, if I can get my hands on some strawberry pudding with some white chocolate chips, I think I'm onto something there. Maybe that's coming up in the future. I don't know. But there I am adding that pistachio pudding, and you can see it is a very pale green. And if it's going to be green, let's make it green. You know, it's not like dark green or gross green or anything like that, but it is a spring green, and it's nice, and I like it. I like these cookies in green, especially because we're going to pair them with white chocolate chips. So the colors are really, really pretty together. Same amount of flour as usual. I will link a base recipe down below for you guys. I found it on Pinterest, so I'll link that one. And then I just kind of, like I said, went nuts playing with it and doing whatever I wanted to do with it. And I have had so much fun making this video. My family has loved me making this video. It has just been a really good time. I love a good cookie so much. So this was definitely fun. Anyway, just putting them out like I did before, and they're going to bake for, the recipe says like 10 to 12 minutes. I have found for me, 10-minute mark is ideal. If I let it go beyond that, the bottom of them starts to get kind of dark. Maybe it's because I have a gas oven. I don't know. So definitely keep an eye on your cookies, because you don't want to burn the bottom. That will make them kind of crispy, especially if you're looking for a soft cookie. Just don't overcook them. Keep an eye on them. They go really, really quickly. All right, friends, those are a few of our favorite cookie recipes. I was so excited to make this video because I love a good cookie, and I hope you guys do too. If you've made it this far, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Join my community and enjoy all the content I have. YouTube's about to pop a couple of videos up on the screen they think you might enjoy, so I hope you will stick around and check them out. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Bye.